3, 2, 1. If you can read the screen behind me, you already know what this show is. And if you can't, it is Tommy Talk. Tommy Talk. 3, 2, 1. If you can read the screen behind me, you already know what this show is. And if you cannot, you're out of luck. Just kidding. It's Tommy Talk. Tommy Talk. Tommy Talk. I'm your guy, TG. Tommy Gann here, giving you the talk of the nation, the talk of the day, as I am the voice of a generation. And to set the scene, a mile high above sea level, Denver, Colorado, a crisp, and I do mean a very, very crisp, Sunday afternoon becomes a blizzard in the American Football Conference Championship game, and your boy was in attendance as the Denver Broncos took on the New England Patriots, and alas, fell to said Patriots 10-7. And the Patriots are going to the Super Bowl again. A few things about that game. First of all, if we're talking about cinema, that was cinema in terms of the environment. If the Broncos could have found a way to pull it off, I said it would have been a legendary game to have been at. The snow flurries. It felt like it was perfect. One of those football games you talk about for years to come. Sadly, it didn't end up going that way. What disappointed me, so Mike Florio, as you might know him as at Pro Football Talk on Twitter, came out and he said, there's been discussions about this and I agree with it. We should move the championship games to neutral sites because the game on Sunday in Denver was unplayable on that surface. It was bad football, all that stuff. And on this show, we've talked a lot about the perceived over-sanitization of sports. And part of that is this push by the owners, by the money crunchers in the National Football League to bring the games indoors and have basically every team have a dome. And it's sad. I mean, this is football. This is good old school, old-fashioned football. You play it in the elements, even if it gets sloppy. It is one of those things that makes sports special, is that it's not always perfect. It's not always optimum conditions, but you have to rise above. And the fact that this was even discussed at all disgusts me in so many different ways. So many different ways. And also, by the way, it wasn't like this was an offensive, this was not an offensive back and forth all day. It wasn't like you had two explosive offenses going in the first half, and then in the second half, it all slowed down because of the snow. No. It was a slog for most of this game, and the Broncos just couldn't pull through in the end. They didn't have their starting quarterback. They only scored once. They had one great drive, and that was about it. One small thing, and you could say hindsight is 20/20 on this, but the fact of the matter is, I remember saying it in the moment, on 4th and 1 there in the first half, when Sean Payton had a chance to go up 10-0, he decided to go for it instead, and they didn't get it. I didn't like the play call, and I thought they should have kicked the field goal. The chance to go up 2 scores when you have your backup quarterback in. Hey, listen, I'm not trying to go after Jarrett Stidham. Obviously, he put his best foot forward as much as he could, but he hadn't played a football game all season. He hadn't started a game in years. And you knew points were going to be a bit of a premium. You knew that weather was going to be rolling in the second half. Maybe not to the extent that it did, but you knew the weather was not going to be amazing. You knew this was a defensive chess match that you were probably walking into. You needed to score points when you got the chance. And in the end, that ended up being the difference in the game. So that was one thing to throw out there. I understand people will say that, Sean Payton wanted to go for the jugular there, but it just didn't seem like it was one situation where being conservative might have helped slightly. But also what led to Patriots points was the backwards pass from Stidham that was picked up by the Patriots, and the Patriots scored a touchdown on that drive. Oddly reminiscent to the AFC Championship game in January of 2016 for the 2015 season, where Peyton Manning did something basically the same against the Patriots, threw a backwards pass, Patriots got a touchdown out of it. Now, it was weird looking at the replay, because if you looked at the replay, it looked like he was throwing the ball forward, but the ball ended up behind him, which is why it got called as a backward pass. You say, what's going on there? A closer examination showed the ball was tipped coming out of his hand, and that's what made it go backwards. That should have been called incomplete, and that made a big difference in this game. So between not kicking that field goal and what I think was a bad call by the refs there, that made the entire difference. I think I want to put that out there. But congrats to the Patriots. It's hard to, knock the Patriots too hard. I mean, it really is a storybook kind of thing where the former player in Mike Vrabel comes back to the team. He's the prodigal son coming back to New England and bringing the Patriots back to their former glory in the Super Bowl. And people are angry. People are saying, the Patriots, their devil magic has returned and all that stuff. If there was one fan base that should be angry right now, it is the Tennessee Titans. Without question. Without question. Because people saw this coming. People saw that somewhere down the road, Vrabel probably would be the head coach, would be the head coach of the Patriots, and that the Titans were likely foolhardy to let Vrabel leave. I mean, they did not give him the best rosters there, and his teams were always in it. They never really gave him a quarterback for the most part. Tannehill gave him some good times, but he was never going to be a franchise guy in the long term. So it really shows, if you're a Titans fan, that they may be one of those really incompetent franchises in that way. I think we already knew that, but this just reaffirms it. And I mean, they bring in Brian Callahan and fire him, and then when they were looking for his replacement, people, insiders were saying, they're going to be looking for a leader of men type instead of a guru type. Man, it's almost like you had a leader of men type, and his name was Mike Vrabel. His name was Mike Vrabel. Apparently, that gets thrown to the birds. Apparently, but now the Patriots go back to the Super Bowl, where they will face the Seattle Seahawks, who defeat the Los Angeles Rams 31-27 in a barn burner, with the 12th man going crazy. People have said that this is one of those games where the game before the Super Bowl is the real Super Bowl, because these were the best two teams in the NFL, quote unquote. I would have been interested to see if the Bears could have somehow pulled it off against the Rams, because the Rams kept it so close against the Seahawks. Maybe the Bears could. That's just where my brain goes. But obviously no one really cares about that. They care about this game where Sam Darnold did it. He beat the old pro in Matt Stafford. And Mike McDonald, the young guy, beats the still also young, but not as young guy, the proven one of the greatest coaches in the NFL in Sean McVay. What a journey for Sam Darnold. What a journey. Let's go back for a second. 2018 draft. The same draft that gave you Baker Mayfield, gave you Josh Allen, gave you Lamar Jackson, and also Josh Rosen. Shout out Josh Rosen. I believe he's in the Wharton School of Business now at the University of Pennsylvania, but whatever. Sam Darnold goes to where quarterbacks seem to always go to die, the New York Jets. He flames out there. He goes to Carolina, where people say, well, he didn't succeed, in New York. Maybe in Carolina he'll succeed. Didn't exactly work out that way at all. Which, by the way, that's another place where quarterbacks, I understand they had Cam Newton, and Bryce Young hasn't been terrible, but another place where quarterbacks don't exactly thrive usually. He goes to San Francisco, where he's the backup, and then he goes to Minnesota, where he has an amazing season. They let him go in another foolhardy decision, choosing J.J. McCarthy over him. He goes to Seattle, and now he's brought him to a Super Bowl. It's incredible. It's an incredible story. The first ever USC quarterback to start in the Super Bowl, which is a surprising statistic. And looking ahead to the Super Bowl, and I understand. Well, first of all, we're going to get a more in-depth preview coming here in the next week. We don't get football this weekend. It'll be the weekend after this one, obviously, as you know. But just looking ahead a little bit, it's not that crazy to look at people's predictions of this game and say, yeah, I understand why the Seahawks are big favorites in this game, or they're considered big favorites in this game. Normally 4.5-point favorites, but they're relatively considered to be the real sort of heavy favorites in a lot of people's minds. Because if you look at the schedules these two teams played in the regular season, both these teams played games against playoff teams. The Seahawks played 8. The Patriots played 4. The Patriots went 2-2. The Seahawks went 6-2, including 3 absolute barn burners against the Los Angeles Rams. They lose the first one, they win the second one in dramatic fashion, and they win the third one in dramatic fashion. One of the all-time great 3-game series probably we've seen from two teams in a long time. And they win the best division in football, and they take the number 1 seed. It's not hard to understand why people have a lot of faith in this Seattle Seahawks team to take care of business against what they see as sort of a weaker Patriots team, especially in the path the Patriots got to take to the Super Bowl, where they played a Chargers team without a functioning O-line. They played in terrible conditions against the Texans, where honestly Drake May didn't look amazing. The defense really pulled through, and CJ Stroud looked terrible. And then they get to play Denver in Denver without their starting quarterback and in a blizzard. At the same time, I talked about Patriots devil magic. Patriots devil magic. This is a well-coached team. Mike Vrabel is a very good head coach. If you don't think this is not going to be a very good game, I got a river to sell you, because I think this is going to be a very, very good game. We'll get into it more in depth later on, but keep an eye out for it. Super Bowl 60, crazy. We have had 60 Super Bowls. Super Bowl 60 in Santa Clara at the 49ers Stadium, next to that power substation, which is now a subject of such great controversy. Moving on to one more NFL topic, probably what was the biggest topic of the day. Bill Belichick, legendary head coach. We already were talking about one Patriots head coach. What about the old Patriots head coach, Bill Belichick? Well, obviously there was one coach between them, but Bill Belichick, 6-time Super Bowl champion as a head coach, more than any other head coach, obviously. He's up for the Hall of Fame. Most people would say, unquestionably, first ballot Hall of Famer. In sports, if you're a first ballot Hall of Famer, it's a no question you were that amazing, you were that great. And people said, well, of course, hands down, Bill Belichick, first ballot Hall of Famer. No, sir. No. He failed to get into the Hall of Fame on the first ballot. He's going to have to wait at least a year to get in. And people are understandably very upset. How do you not let Belichick in, a titan of the football universe like Bill Belichick? How do you not let him in on the first ballot? He is the definition of a first ballot Hall of Famer. And if he's not a first ballot Hall of Famer, then nobody is a first ballot Hall of Famer. And the word is that Bill Polian and his guys in the voting committee basically said, we don't like what he did, especially with Spygate back in the day. If you remember Spygate with the Patriots, you can look that up if you're too young. But Spygate, where he's filming other teams' practices, they didn't like what he did with that, and they decided to give him a little punishment by making him wait a year. That's the word. And apparently they asked Polian, he's like, oh, I don't remember if I voted for Belichick. Yeah, he didn't vote for Belichick. I meant them. You don't remember? Sure, buddy. And people were very upset and very angry and saying this hurts the reputation of the Hall of Fame, and it's just so very bad. And all I have to really say is bravo. Hilarious troll if you're Bill Polian and the Hall of Fame voters. Listen. Is it childish? Should they have just put him in? Obviously, yes. Of course. Obviously. But that's one last, in life, if you make enemies, you can't be surprised if when you're drowning, they throw you a cinder block instead of a life preserver. You can't be surprised if you don't make a whole lot of friends if they decide, hey, we'll let them wait a year. We're going to let them wait a year. It's a hilarious move. Obviously, it doesn't make any difference. It doesn't really change anything for the most part. He's going to be in the Hall of Fame next year. Big whoop. In the larger picture, it's really a big whoop thing. Something people will argue about in sports bars and on, talk shows for a long time. It maybe even hurt Bill Polian's legacy or whatever. But it doesn't change anything for the most part. Okay? It's a hilarious troll. Should they have let him in? Probably. But, hey, what are you going to do? And people are going to hate up they bring this up, but he had, like a 40% winning percentage without Tom Brady as his quarterback? Obviously, it doesn't really change anything, but that's one of those little troll statistics you could throw out there if you're them. I'm just putting it out there if you're one of those Hall of Fame balloters. Just saying, if you want to come up with some type of excuse to give yourselves. So bravo. At the end of the day, he won 6 Super Bowls. He's insanely rich. He's, no matter what happens here, he's going to be considered like the greatest head coach of all time. So, Patriots fans and Belichick have to wait 1 year for him to be inducted to the Hall of Fame? Womp womp. Womp womp. Womp womp. Let's not all pretend like these Hall of Fames, by the way, are these impeachable bastions of solid, unforgettable, undeniable greatness where they don't, they would never take personal vendettas into any of this. Okay? We already know that the Baseball Hall of Fame ain't that way. It ain't that way with the Pro Football Hall of Fame also. So, I'm just saying. One last topic here before we ship off. And this goes back to the University of Colorado, my University of Colorado Buffaloes, as the preeminent voice on the internet of the Colorado Buffaloes. I like to bring up the Buffaloes, of course, obviously. And, of course, this was big news that came out. The Buffs are apparently going to start fining players. Deion Sanders and the Buffs are going to start fining players for breaking team rules. They're saying, hey, if you're going to get paid like the pros, you're going to get punished like the pros. And there's a little bit of, is this allowed? But at this point, the NCAA is so neutered, and they can't really do anything when it comes to the courts that, what are you going to do? And if you're Coach Prime, you need this kind of discipline within your team. Last year, discipline fell apart. That was the word around town when they went into that bye week. If you remember, before the bye week, they beat Iowa State, ranked Iowa State. And then after the bye week, the team just plummeted completely. So you need a certain amount of discipline to return to this team. And this is not the worst way to do it. Treat them like men. Treat them like men. And that brings us to Tommy's top 5, the top 5 punishments / fines for University of Colorado football players for breaking the rules. Tommy's top 5 different ways that you can be fined by Coach Prime. 5. Number 5. You get fined $1,000 for being late to strength and conditioning or being late to treatment. $1,000. Number 4. Hey, you're no-show to strength and conditioning or no-show to treatment. That's $1,500 out of your pocket. Number 3. You are a no-show to a meeting or a film session. Hey, guess what? $2,000. Bye-bye. Number 2. You are a no-show to practice. That is $2,500. And number 1. You can be fined up to $5,000 for a public or social media misconduct. based on severity. But that's the 5 right there. Those are the top 5 punishments you can get if you cross Coach Prime and the Buffs. Hopefully, this instills some level of discipline within the group. It does worry me a little bit that this could cause things to break down. Maybe, I don't know. Considering how last year went down, if you go a little too hard, it's like, closing your fist around sand. It goes through your fingers. I'm hoping that's not the case. We'll see. But those are the top 5 right there. Good on Coach Prime for having discipline, trying to discipline his players, especially with a lot of guys coming in from the portal. But we'll see how it works out. Thank you all for watching, folks. This is Tommy Gain here at Tommy SGAHANTG, and this has been Tommy Talk. I'm tired. I love you all. Bye-bye. Bye.